Hey everyone, I am back with another Automa. This time it is Tiny Towns. I will say that this is compatible with both the Fortune and the Villager expansion. So if you have those, feel free to mix them in. You can mix in one, you can mix in both. You can just play the base game, whatever suits you. In this Automa, you are going to be getting a player board for Emmet, who you are going to be taking on to see who can become the master builder. You're going to be getting a 21 card Automa deck, as well as a 6 card Villager deck for Emmet in case you're playing with the Villager expansion. Looking at Emmet's player board, you are going to have a spot for his deck as well as in progress buildings that he's working on. You're going to have a spot for his resources, his resource deck. And then if you're playing with the Villagers expansion, you're going to have a spot for his Villager card, as well as if you're playing with the Fortune expansion, a spot for his coins to go. So to set up, you're going to take the resource cards that come in the base game. These are well done, so why not use them? So I went ahead and sleeved them, just giving them a shuffle, and you're going to place them here. If at any point during the game that you run out of these, and as you're flipping them, you're going to be putting them here in this discard pile. If you ever run out, you're simply going to take the discard pile, shuffle it, and put it back on top. That's what the symbol here means. You're going to take Emmet's 21 card deck. You're going to give that a shuffle, and then you're going to reveal the top 3 cards and place them here in the in progress spots. If during setup, and you're playing with either the Fortune or Villagers expansion, you see any symbols down here, you're going to ignore them during setup only. We're not going to resolve the effects down here when revealing cards during setup only. If you're playing with the Villagers expansion, go ahead and get Emmet 6 cards, shuffle them, and you can place them here. And then your setup is the same as in a multiplayer game. So you're going to take your player board. If you're playing with a Fortune expansion, you'll take your little extra board here. And then you're going to deal out 7 cards, 1 from each category. For your monuments, and all these are monuments from the expansions as well, there's only 2 that are not compatible with the Automa, and that is Fort Ironweed and Starloom. So you can go ahead and remove those and then give this a shuffle before you pick your monument for the game. Emmet is not going to score based off of these cards here at the top. He's going to score based off his Automa cards, which we'll see here in a little bit. And then if you are playing with the Villagers deck, the Villagers expansion, just have the Villagers deck ready for you. Emmet won't use these cards. He'll use these cards, but if in case you capitalize on these cards, you'll want to have that ready. I have all my cubes ready to go. There's just one more thing that we need to do. If you are playing on easy, then you are ready to begin. If you are playing on normal, then you need to look at his 3 in progress cards, and you need to put 1 matching resource from the supply on each of these cards to start the game. So for this card, I could pick either an ore, a wood, or a brick. Let's say I pick a brick. For this one, I have wheat or wood. Let's say I do a wheat. And for here, let's say let's do glass. So you get to choose from the supply 1 cube to go on all of these. If you are playing on hard, then 2 cubes need to go on all of them. All right, to start the game, you will be the first player. You will always be the first player no matter the difficulty. You will take your turn as in a normal multiplayer game. You will take a cube, you will name a resource, you will take that resource and you will put it on your player board. After you're done doing that, whatever resource you named, you take it 1 from the supply and you have to put it on one of Emmet's in progress cards. Looking at his cards, they have slots for the different cubes. You will always try to fill from left to right. So he'll always try to complete this card first. So I picked brick, so I take a brick from the supply. Hey, look, there's a spot there, so I will put the brick there, okay? But let's say I had just gone in and picked brick, and there was already a brick on there, so there's no spots for reds on this card, so then I go to this card, there's no spots for reds on here, so then I go to here. Yes, there's 2 available slots, so I'll just pick one. But let's say both of these had already been filled up. Well, when I went to put a brick on one of his cards, there are no slots. So this simply is returned to the supply. And you need to use this to your advantage during the game to try to block Emmet from getting resources. Let's say now it was my turn and I picked an ore, so I get an ore, and then Emmet gets an ore. And so we look at this first card, there's an ore slot there, so we'll go ahead and place it. Whenever Emmet fills in all the cubes required on the card, we're going to go ahead and take it off. All the resources, we'll put them back to the supply. And then this card will go into his victory display, which is just off to the side. He's going to score for these cards at the end of the game. When Emmet completes a building, he's going to move all the in-progress buildings to the left, slide in them, and then he's going to reveal a new card. It is at this time that you look to see what, if any, resources Emmet produces when he completes this building. So in this case, he completes a glass, an ore, and a brick. So you would take those from the supply, and you would try to place them all on the leftmost card, or as many as you can on the leftmost cards. So in this case, none go here, but then going to this next card, both brick and ore go here, and then this brick goes here. Okay, that just completed a building. So then I would take this one off. I would slide down. And then this card produces 2 brick. And then you would try to place them on here. And in this case, one would go here and the other one would be wasted and would go to the supply. And then these will just go off to the side into his victory display. When cards are revealed from his deck, if you're playing with the Fortune or the Villagers expansion, you need to look at the bottom portion of the card. If you're playing with Fortune, you're going to be looking for this section right here to see if there's any gold coins. If there are, you take a gold coin from the supply and you place it on his player board. His player board has enough room for 3 gold coins. If you reveal a card and it has this little animal symbol, and you're playing with the Villagers expansion, then you're going to take a animal token, it doesn't matter which one, and you're going to place it on one of these 2 slots here. Whenever both animal slots are filled up, you're going to flip over and resolve the top card of his deck. Okay? So go ahead and we would resolve it, and then all the animals on his board would go back to the supply, and then he has a chance to refill them again. If you're playing with a Fortune expansion and he gets a 3rd coin, then he immediately builds his leftmost building, no matter what resources are on it. Okay, so he would build this. Any cubes on it would go back to the supply. We would slide these down, reveal a new card, and then this would produce 2 wheat, and you would try to fill them up, and then this would go to his victory display. After he has built his leftmost building, he will return all 3 coins back to the supply, and you will keep going. So we've talked about how Emmet places cubes on his cards, but we haven't actually gone over Emmet's turn. So as I said, you're going to be naming a resource, and you'll put that on your board, and then whatever you name, Emmet gets that resource and tries to fill up his buildings. After you've done that, just in a multiplayer game, it's now Emmet's turn to name a resource. So what he's going to do is flip over the top card from his resource deck, brick. He's going to gain that from the supply, and then he's going to attempt to put that on one of the 3 cards in his in-progress slots. If he can't, it just goes back to the supply. After he's activated, you then have to place whatever named resource that he named on your board, just as in a multiplayer game, as if another player had named that resource. It is important to note that on his cards, when he produces, like if he were to finish this farm and it produces 2 wheat, he gains those resources from the supply and tries to put them on his player board. You do not have to put those resources on your board. You only place resources on your board when he names them, aka at the start of his turn when he flips over a card from the top of this deck. Play will continue with you taking a turn and Emmet taking a turn until you can no longer take any turns because your board is filled, just as in a multiplayer game. If playing on easy, the game ends then. If playing on normal, Then Emmet is going to reveal 3 additional resource cards. So he would gain a glass, try to put them on any cards on his in progress row, trying to complete any. If he does, he will slide the cards down, refill, and then keep going. So that was 1. He would do it again. That would be his second resources he gained trying to complete cards. And then finally, a third time, he would try to place that resources on his cards, refilling if he completes any. If playing on hard, Emmet's going to do that 5 times. So he's going to gain 5 resources, and then the game will end. At the end of the game, you are going to score as normal. Emmet will score for buildings, but not based off of these cards. We'll go over that here in a second. He's going to score based off his completed buildings. He will never have any empty spaces, which he'll get negative points. He will not score for monuments. He could potentially gain coins if he has any left over on his board when the game ends. He will score per the normal fortune rules. I think is 1 point each for each gold coin on his board. So let's see how he actually scores. So I've gone ahead and let's pretend that these are all the buildings that he has completed at the end of the game. So what I like to do is just set them out by building type. So let's just go down the list here for this one. So did he complete any of these? Yes. So Emmet would score 2 points. So I would put 2 there. The next building is the teal one for cottages. He would score 4 points because that's what it shows on the card. All right. Orange, no orange cards. Green. So for taverns, it says X, based off Emmet's constructed taverns. So if he's built 1 green building, he's going to score 2 points, and this does count. So in this case, he would score 2 points. And if he's built 2 green buildings, he would score 5 points. And 3 green buildings, he would score 10 points. Yellow, right here. This says Emmet gets 1 point for each unique building type. Well, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for yellow, he would score 6. For the wells or mines, this one says 1 for each cottage, which he has 1. So this one would be worth 1. This one would be worth 2. So that would be a total of 3, which would go here. He doesn't score for monuments, like I said. He doesn't score for negative spaces, empty spaces. He could score for gold coins. And then there's one card in his deck called the Gambler's Den, which says this is a tavern. It's a green building. If it's complete, so if this was here at the end of the game, it would score 6 points. And then that would also contribute to Emmet scoring an additional 3 points because now he would have had 2. But if this card is showing in his in progress row at the end of the game, he's going to score negative 3 points. So you can place this here in this column here in this row here for negative points there. I will also say there is no spot on here for farms, which are the red ones. Sorry, the red buildings. It doesn't have to be a farm. It could be a brickyard. So he does score for these. So you can either add them to this row or just add them to another building type. But Emmet will score for red buildings if he's completed any. Once you calculate your score, whoever has the most wins, and if it's a tie, Emmet wins. You need to be better than him, not the same. I do have a couple of clarifications that I have written down in the rules, just for your knowledge, but I'm going to go over them here real quick. Any card that says whenever a player on your left or right, or when another player names, or named by other players, or all other players, those terms will always refer to Emmet. There is a card called Folly Tower, and this is going to cap at 5 for you. So Folly Tower reads 1 point per tower level unless you have the highest level. So the most for playing with this with the Automa, you can still play with it, but the most points that you can score is 5, so you can have 5 levels on it. But if you get 0 points if you have 6 or more on your tower. So you want to make sure you have 5 or less. If you get 6, it's worth 0. For the Feast Hall Greenhouse card, which would be in here, you need more than Emmet for it to score. So go ahead and give it to Reed if you're playing with it, but you need more than Emmet for it to score. You can also play with the cavern rule found in the base game, but just be aware that it will make the game easier. So if you are looking for a little easier challenge, then you can play with that rule if you want to. And just like that, you are ready to play versus Emmet in a game of Tiny Towns, which turns the solo mode in the box from a beat your high score to a win-loss condition. If you have any questions, feel free to post on BGG within the Tiny Towns files page or on YouTube, and I'll happily get back to you. Thanks for your time.